I'm here.
Okay. Okay, there she is. Lady Technology.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, look at
Hi,
you in
happy
your blue.
Thursday. I have a drink ready for you.
Okay, look. Oh, look at that gorgeous blood orange.
You know, it's,
Cheers.
it's the house drink. It's the tequila with grapefruit from my tree in the backyard. So it's
Mona has beautiful fruit trees in her backyard. And when I encourage everybody to listen to episode 5 of the podcast. We did a podcast with Mona. We got into a lot there. We're going to get into a lot more now on this 25th anniversary of the film Clueless, which Mona worked on and changed fashion. It was changed the face of fashion, that film. But we did do this podcast, episode 5, and when we came to Mona's beautiful home, Atlanta's favorite cocktail, when we came to Mona's beautiful home in Silver Lake, she insisted that we take a load off, we take our shoes off, we go to her meditation cabana in the back of her space, which is just a magical place. And after we took a rest, and then after we podcasted, she made us this gorgeous drink. Literally after she picked the fruit off of, before she picked the fruit off the trees, and she made us this fresh drink. We fell in love with it. The recipe for Mona's gorgeous Paloma cocktail is actually on storyandrain.com. So cheers again. If anybody it's the perfect drink. And what is your favorite type of tequila, Mona? You that was another sort of tidbit that you shared with me, because I'm not a huge tequila fan. And the one that you selected, I think, was really great.
I like Don Julio
No, you
Reposado.
said Hornitas.
Hornito is good. Yeah, Hornito is like the basic one. You can make
But
any kind of.
it's actually, guys, it's not expensive and it's delicious. So
Yeah.
let's get into the chat, Mona.
Okay.
Mona, you grew up in India.
I did. I was born in India.
Okay, and so your sense of color reminds me of the vivid colors of India. Is that where you got your color sensibility from, do you think?
And I mean, I think the first things you see as a kid, as a baby, it's just like the saffron yellow, the fuchsia pink, the green color. I mean, it just blows up there with color. So I think that, that's what I probably was my first experiences. I don't remember it personally, like, because
No, but it probably, you're saying
but
that it probably like leaked into your psyche somehow, right?
it has to, because I mean, I just love color. It's all about my house, it's red and yellow. And I feel like I can tell story with color. I mean, color is all
Well,
emotion.
you do tell a story with color. I want to ask you more about that. Have
Yeah.
you always made a conscious effort to use bold color in your work, or is it unconscious? Is it
It's
just,
conscious. It's just completely natural. It's what I'm drawn to. It's yeah, it's
but I think, people come to you for that, right? You're sort of known for that at this point in your
yes.
career. Have you ever taken a job where your color aesthetic had to be tempered?
Yes, and it was a really cool challenge. It was the beginning of my career. I did like Clueless, Never Been Kissed, Romy and Michele, Wedding Singer, all these type movies, comedies, and I got a request from Joel Schumacher to do this movie called 8 mm with Nick Cage, and it was super dark. It was about snuff film and kind of like
Well,
very dark.
I actually have a question for you about 8
Yeah,
millimeter.
but that job was such a great opportunity to really dive into something so completely different to what I'm kind of naturally, or what I'm used to, or what I'm asked to do. And it was a really interesting experience. It was really cool. It's still, to me, it's storytelling. It's creating characters. Um,
But
but
what I was going to say was that film 8 millimeter starred Nick Cage,
yeah,
Joaquin Phoenix, and James Gandolfini, amongst others.
yes.
Were your fittings and meetings with those actors separate? What's it like doing Men's featuring 3 powerhouse stars? What was the dynamic like there?
To me, it's all creating. So I really distinguish between male and female in a way. To me, they all characters. They humans who come in, the artists who come in to create this character. And I work with them visually. I work with them viscerally. We work. I mean, films are so interesting. They really are. Like, if within 3 seconds you look at someone and you know who they are by what they're wearing. So that informs the character so quickly. So it's such a great experience working with actors in the fitting. So you do all the preparation of visual boards and discussions with the director, but not really till you in the fitting. When you're trying the clothes on, it's that's when it's true comes out. You know,
When
what
you're working with a human being, with a
with
person.
the human being,
Yeah.
create, you know, right there, putting the sweater on, and it's like, no, not really him. And, you know, maybe something you really had an eye on that you thought was the perfect thing is completely wrong, but the thing that's hanging off the rack at the end, just this brown weird sweater, you just threw it on. It's like the actor puts it on. It's like, this is it. I feel like that person.
And then sometimes the outfit that you think is the perfect one somehow doesn't, you know,
Doesn't
that's
fit.
art really though,
Yeah,
isn't
it
it? That's
too much,
art.
little, or it just doesn't have that energy of that character. So to answer your question, I think it's the same process, you know, man or woman to me. I mean, these were very dark characters. So it was just kind of really diving into a very dark part of each of these people, which was interesting. I mean, the research I had to do, I mean, you know, they all super professional. I mean, what's interesting about like Joaquin, you know, I think to this day he's vegan. He was vegan then. You know, we had to make all his clothes vegan friendly. You know, at the time it was the 90s, so there was not so much of these kind of clothes. We had his own boots out of fake
Not at all.
hands, and but you know, I love these type of actors who are really serious. You know, they walk in and it's not about like how they look. It's really about who they should embody, and that's kind of the fun. You know, those are the moments that I look for.
Will you list for everybody here in the chat, and for the sake of this podcast, we're going to do a part 2 of the podcast. List your top 10 or so films and TV projects as a costume designer. I mean, Mona has really worked on
so many, but I think the most famous one that people know, it's like Clueless. You know, I've never been Romy and Michele, Wedding Singer, Night at the Roxbury, Stuart Little, because I got to design the digital clothes for him, Enchanted with Amy Adams, House Bunny,
Never Been Kissed.
Never Been Kissed with Drew. I mean, Drew was in Never Been Kissed and Wedding Singer, and then I did Santa Clarita Died with her for Netflix.
Yes. So, Mona, years after the film Clueless's release and then adaptation for theater, the costumes you created have proven to make a huge impact on pop culture. Why do you think?
I don't think it's I mean, that's a whole one podcast discussion, I think. Why? Because I think there's so many levels to this. I feel that the script was incredible. I think, you know, what Amy Heckerling wrote on the page, it was phenomenal to start with. You know, I think she really embodied the youth, the characters. They were very rounded. They were real. I think the lingo was incredible too. The way that she, you know, the people spoke on the page. And you know, I met Amy on another project before Clueless, and we fell in love with each other. We did a pilot that didn't get picked up, but we just creatively so synced, connected, that when she wrote Clueless, she called me and said, you know, I really want you to do it. I think it was also my European sensibility, you know, growing up in Europe, kind of having more of a fashion background.
Well, tell us where else you grew up. You grew up in Germany a little bit. No?
My dad was Polish. I lived in Poland and Warsaw as a kid. You know, we traveled a lot all over the world. So I was really exposed to a lot growing up. And I think that that's really informed how I see things, how I see the world. And, you know, at the time, 1995, you didn't really have the phrase that we use so much now, global point of view. And I think I kind of had that ahead of time.
Right, that's very true.
Early on. So the way that I presented the clothes and the characters and what I chose was really through that filter. So it was almost like it was timeless. You know, it was more European. It was not on trend in a sense, like, okay, it's 1995, we have to use this. You know,
let me go to the mall and think about what people are wearing at the mall, right?
Right. Even at the mall, there was nothing. It was pretty much grunge, you know, and there was like contemporary casuals.
Why we all remember that well.
And there was high. So there
yeah.
was really, and then there were people dressed from thrift stores, which was really big at the time as well.
So
you know.
What were you working on, Mona, when Amy Heckerling found you for this project? What had you been working on at that point?
Not much. I mean, that was my beginnings of my career. You know,
and she found you through a friend, or she?
No. I said we did a pilot together.
Yeah, but how did she find you up for the pilot?
I think it was through, you know, you know how it is. It's a small industry, you know.
Yes.
You get called. I mean, she saw a bunch of people. It wasn't just she called me to get the job. I went on an interviewed, and I was
And you
chosen.
landed the job because of what you're saying, your global sensibility and point of view.
Yeah, I think it's just the first was the connection with her, you know, really creative connection, and the way that we saw things was very similar. And I think the first job proved what we had together, you know, which was kind of like so in sync. I mean, we would come to work and had the same tear sheet, you know. It was before computers, everybody.
Oh
This was
yeah, yeah.
it was style.com to just go and push a button.
Yeah, you just took pictures, grabbed tear sheet, tore
We,
things literally out of a magazine or a
yeah,
book, or even a book if you had to, right? You tear it from anywhere you could, right?
anywhere
To
you could.
give the references, to compile the references.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So I think
when
we were
did you realize that something special was happening in terms of fashion on the film? Or did you not realize it when you were working on it? Did you
I don't
sort of,
think where it was never in our minds that we are making something incredible and it's going to change the world. We were just, you know, I was young and I was so happy to be working on a movie that actually married my two loves, which was fashion and costume design. I mean, it was what an opportunity to really have because I loved fashion since I was 5 years old. So, you know, and I studied it all over Europe and Paris and New York and, you know, Milan. And, you know, I've been to London to the runway. So this was like, what an opportunity to bring that to life. Um, so we were just kind of entrenched in it. You know, there was not a big budget. I mean, we were all, I mean, all the cast was unknown. You know, Amy was kind of a senior director. She's done so many great movies before. I mean, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And um, so it was a very challenging job. You know, I mean, Alicia Silverstone had 60 changes. So it's not like, you know, I mean, and I didn't have a lot of money. It was $25 million movie, which is nothing really. I mean,
yeah,
you also finding clothes was different. There was no PR machine to send me clothes to give me anything, you know.
right,
I think
right.
because of
We
the so
talk about that at length on the podcast. Which
yeah,
designers and brands did you use, and how did you find them?
I think it was really what was out, what I could get. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, even getting the Alaya dress was really difficult. We had to find somebody who knows him, and you know, contact them and get the dress, and hope that we can use the dress, that we can alter the dress, that they'll take it back. The Dolce Gabbana suit, which is the yellow suit, was actually off the rack. I found it in the store, and I had to pay the real money for it. Nobody gave me a discount.
And what made, well, let me ask you this. This is kind of a question for those of us that work in fashion and we work with budgets and we work with making these types of decisions. I'm sure you had a certain budget, right, Mona?
Mm-hmm.
And what was it that made you, maybe we do cover this on our podcast actually, but what was it that, you know, and I've been there too many times. You have this budget, it's got to stretch a whole season or it's got to stretch for the whole project. What made you say, I'm going to plunk the money down for this suit because this is a suit that is going, because really it has become kind of the hallmark of that film in a lot of ways. Like, what do you remember what it was, what you were feeling when you saw it and you said, I'm going to allot this huge portion of my budget to this suit?
Well, the way we work, it's a little bit differently. I think that you guys in fashion, because
Oh,
we have
it was in a costume house.
no, but we
Oh,
have to create a whole wardrobe. So we basically, in the fittings, we bring a lot of things. So in the fitting, it really kind of becomes apparent what that is the best item. And you know, the that scene, the opening scene was really important. And Amy really wanted something that stood out, that really made Cher just kind of be the bright sun. And also the location was in a quad. There was a lot of people going in the background of her. There was a lot of green. You know, we've tried a bunch of stuff. I've tried a red suit. I did something blue, and nothing was really quite working. So the choice really was made of when she put that suit on that I pulled for the fitting. When she put that suit on, I mean, it was an immediate reaction of all of us. This is it, because it just made her look like the queen. And in the setting, wherever we're going to be shooting,
yeah.
just the perfect balance of everything. So I think the decision was kind of made for me that this is it. This is with the money we have to
You're
spend.
right. It was a piece within your vision. And then, like you said it earlier, even with the guys, Gandolfini and Nicolas Cage, and uh, until you get the person in the clothes and you get, the piece, it'll light itself up and you'll realize that that's the one to go with. And yeah, a bunch of things come together, right, to create that
I
moment.
think that also it's the director, their actor, usually for those kind of very important films, they're there. It's very cohesive, kind of how we all feel. It's like really that moment that almost like sometimes you feel the hair stand on your arm. It's like, this is it. This is her
Wow.
opening moment of her coming through. I mean, truly like a sunshine. Again, talking about color, what is the emotion of color? Like what red is and what yellow. Yellow is truly like sunshine. Is the sun.
So you see color as personality.
Yes, completely, completely. I mean, I
Okay.
very rarely myself wear gray or beige. I'm just very. I mean, I do wear black because it's very
Yeah.
slim.
Everybody wears black. Come on. Why would we not? But I get that. Right. Like,
But I mean, we didn't use very much.
Mona, I keep trying to buy myself. I am so dumb. I like, I'm forever this person that like wants that gorgeous like camel double-breasted Max Mara-esque coat. Okay, and then I was like, this looks terrible on you. It matches your hair. You're just not that girl for that coat.
Right.
And sure enough, it's probably like quarantine fatigue. The other day, I'm on Instagram, and I saw some version of that camel coat, and I, pulled the trigger and I ordered it online. And then
No,
it came, no, and I just opened it up a few hours ago and I looked at it and I just go, you know better than this. But it's true. It's like colors have personalities, right? And you sort of know what looks good on you and you know what doesn't. And I fell into like a little bit of an online shopping trap
right.
when I bought this coat the other day. You know what I mean? Like I want to be that camel coat girl. I'm just never going to be that camel coat girl.
I will never be the camel girl, even though I love the.
It just,
It's the
the
most.
camel coat girl has dark hair or something. She's not me.
No.
Anyway, Mona, in recent years, which designers have taken inspiration from your vision in the film Clueless, for the film Clueless?
Okay, I don't have a list in front of me, but it's long. And I mean, immediately after the movie came out, Karl Lagerfeld was making like phone and bottle holders on the runway. I mean, uh, endless designers. I mean, truly, I should like have a list that I can just pull out. But
Yeah, somebody should do research and put a list together.
have truly, I mean, every year there's some kind of a plaid trend that's following the Clueless, and I don't even know if it has to be following Clueless, but it's so timeless. I mean, plaid is beautiful, and I think why we use plaid too in the movie. It really comes from the Catholic school girl, and then it was translated to the high fashion through, taken from the runway and then translated through their eyes into the high school look. It's emotional, it's cute, it's sexy forever. I mean, guys always love girls in little mini skirts, plaid skirt. I mean, um, especially when it's paired with the over the knee stocking. And I mean, I think that's why it's sexy, but it's very wholesome at the same time.
What do you how do you, is there a way that you describe the overall styling in that film that you did? What were the components of those looks?
What
If you had to drill it down, Mona, what were the components of those looks in Clueless?
I think the most important thing to Amy Heckerling, the director, was when we did this movie, was that he took the high fashion, but really translated it through the eyes of a high school girl. So all the trends that I kind of took from the runways, and be it Birkenstocks or the plaid or peacoat or berets or whatever that was, it really translated into just kind of a very girly, innocent look. We never had cleavage. We never had like, there was nothing overly sexy. It was all really to enhance the beauty of the female. And I think it was kind of in a way bouncing back from what was on the street, which was really just grunge completely. When we went to high schools to look at what's happening and scouting, girls look like guys. There was nothing really feminine. I mean, the girls who maybe had more femininity were, wearing like granny dresses with
Oh
or
yeah.
in 40s jacket that looks like that, maybe like pinup girls that was kind of sexy, in the 80s, 90s. But so that really how I looked at everything. Every choice was made from that perspective. And I think that also is something that added to the popularity of the film and something that lived that many years, because I think this is so important to feel good in any kind of body, type of body, as a woman, as a girl, feel kind of innocent and pretty and beautiful. And I think we did a great job. You know, me and Amy, I think we really were able to create these characters where girls all over the world wanted to emulate it and feel like I'm Cher or I'm Dion, you know, or I'm Amber, I'm the fashion victim. You know, you have
Right.
little bit for everybody.
Right. Right. Speaking of which, what is your favorite look from the film, from Clueless?
How can you ask that? People ask me
I
that,
don't, oh,
you
I'm
know,
sorry. I'm being very
like
cliche right now.
the mother, which is your favorite child?
I'm sorry. I
Like,
don't, yeah, no, I know.
like even
Oh,
in
okay.
movies,
Just some,
I mean, I
you
love,
talk a lot about the yellow plaid suit. That was Dolce Gabbana, correct or
yes,
no?
correct,
Yes.
correct.
So you can't choose.
I mean, I love the suit. You know, the suit forever will be like the stamp of the film. But I also love a very simple outfit that's in the movie at some point. She wears a A-line leather skirt with a sheer blouse and a little leather jacket.
Beautiful. Like that's, yeah, right.
I
Right.
mean, go by it
Yeah.
now. You know, the pea coat with the blue pea coat with the beret. I mean, I love that. I mean, I wear it now. And
Yeah. Yeah. You're making me want to watch the film this weekend, which I probably will do. How did the film star? How did Alicia Silverstone react to the costumes at the time? Do you remember? Do you recall?
I love her. And she always, she laughs when I tell the story. I mean,
Okay.
she was so young. I mean, she was just in a video, um, um,
Aerosmith.
Aerosmith
Her,
video, yes, you know, and she was like the most beautiful angel. And Amy just fell in love with her, Amy Heckling. And when she came in, you know, she was a kid, 18-year-old girl, just running around with the dogs in her sweatpants. You know, she was always a vegan and always very, you know, animal rescue. And here she is, and now has to step into the room full of kind of, you know, designer and binding clothes, as she calls it in the movie.
binding clothes.
Binding, you know, she says that.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Uh, so it really was a challenge. You know, it was a lot of fittings, 60 changes of wardrobe. So you imagine you have many, many, many hours of fittings and trying different things that works for the character, finding the character, and then actually making the selection for that many changes. It's huge, you know. So it was quite a chore for someone who really was an ingenue and also had to kind of learn through
Great point.
how to how to move, you know, how to be.
How to put the clothes on and channel the character.
Yes, completely. But on the other hand, it really informed her. She said to me so many times, she said, Mona, you know, I really didn't even understand at the time what it was and how that made me the person. Now I really see it and get it, you know. But at the time, I think she was just kind of frustrated. Um,
Yeah. Here she has to do 60 changes. It's a lot.
a lot, you know, it's a lot for somebody who, and also, you know, you got to try this and you got to put this on. And then, you know, oh, you forgot the jewelry. I mean, it was everything, the jewelry, the shoes, the stockings, you know, it's a lot going on for somebody that young, but the transformation happened, you know, and
Yeah.
she played it. I mean, like, no,
Yes. We have somebody in the chat here that's asking you about Brittany Murphy, who is no longer with us. Tell us about Brittany Murphy. How did she feel about the costumes? What was your working relationship with her like? Did she embrace the look, or just was she not clued into that as much?
Brittany was amazing. I mean, you know, she was, I think, 17 when she came,
Younger, for sure. Right.
very young. Yeah. She came with her mom. You know, she was super professional already and so happy to be there and be part of this project with all these young people. And Amy, you know, and Amy is really genius about picking talent. You know, if you look at her movies and how she makes stars out of, you know, Sean Penn, for example, in Fast Times and many others. But um, she was so delicate and so really incredibly intuitive, I have to say. You know, when we work together, she really got it, because when the first scene that we see her and she's so ugly almost, you know, because we wanted to make her look just so grungy and just complete opposite from the world of Cher and the Beverly Hills. And so
Yeah.
having to work with for the
Right. She was the girl from New Jersey who didn't care as much about her appearance, going across country to be in this new school, which a lot of people can relate to, right? You know?
yes,
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And, you know, we also had to create an arc for her to have the makeover, to kind of become someone that maybe she's not, that Cher wanted her to be, and then find herself in the end. You know, so it was a lot of, there was a lot going on for her character through the film.
Yeah, she did. She had a lot. She had a big storyline. It's very true.
Really big storyline. And, you know, she really was intuitive in the things that we were doing. She never wanted to go too much. She always kind of wanted to keep it more modest, which was really cool. And I think that was really the right way that we approached it. You know, in my way, I was creating kind of Cher look-alike, but kind of if Cher went to Dolce Gabbana, she went to Tempo Casual to get her clothes. So, you know, the textures, the color, the fit was a little different. But working with her was really magical. You know, we stayed friends. She was, I think, really, really great actress. You know, and it was kind of the first opportunity for her to learn about it. We were so tight too. You know, I mean, everybody had lunch together. We all, you know, we were so young. It was
Yeah, we were
really
getting dressed together, changing clothes. Yeah, it's a very intimate experience.
very intimate.
Someone else was asking here in the chat of you, and I know part of this answer, I think, but I think it'd be interesting for you to answer it, is that how do you keep it all consistent when you're working on a film, 80, 60 costumes for one character? Can you talk a little bit about, technically how that works, the team and continuity and all of that?
Big job, you know. It's really, you know, and funny enough, I never get the movies where people just wear one costume through the whole. I just get always the huge challenging ones, which is really fun. And you know, you learn how to do it. I think it's the experience, but you do have a great team. Team is everything. You know, you have your shoppers, you have your seamstresses, you have your set, you have like a supervisor type that works with me and, you know, keeps track of the money and paying bills and petty cash and all that stuff. So it's a very oiled machine. Because
And Mona, what you guys do on the, behind the scenes is you take pictures of every look and you
yes,
match everything for
absolutely,
continuity, right?
absolutely. Nowadays it's really great because there's this thing called sync on set, which is something where you take a picture, you can put it, you know, through this program and then write everything, you know, in the computer. So everything is, all the data is there for other departments. You can
Very cool.
share the information. So like I can send something to the decorator and say, okay, this is what she's wearing that scene. Please don't, she has a green blouse, don't have a green pillow, or, you know, what is the color of the wall?
Well, of course, it has to. Definitely got to match your
Yeah, we
backdrop.
communicate with the production designer, with the director of photography, you know, what lights they're going to be. So maybe if there's a dark room, they're informing me that, you know, don't put anything too dark because they're going to disappear, you know, so I can bring up the color or tone on it. Or, you know, sometimes the cameras are super sensitive, so I have to be careful of what type of pattern I use, because now it's so sensitive that morays, which is kind of like, you know,
It makes everything buzz on camera.
make
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
fast. But you know, it's challenging. I mean, those jobs are really challenging to keep track of everything, and you have to get multiple things. Sometimes, like in Drew Barrymore, Santa Clarita Diet, you have to get multiples because she gets bloody.
She gets bloody all the time.
You know,
That's
you
actually really funny. Yeah.
have thing. So I rely on my team. You know, I have really good people. Some people I've worked with since Clueless. You know, I work with illustrators. You know, they really your family. You spend so much time, and we work, you know, long hours in our business, 12, 14-hour days, and sometimes, you know, 6 months together. So we become a family.
Was there anybody else, Mona, in the cast that had a strong reaction to what they were going to be wearing? Like, do you remember anybody else,
You know, everybody was young and everybody was really game.
game? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that you have somebody like Amy Heckerling who has an incredible vision. They really listen. They believe it. They really want to, you know, create that, what she's seeing in her head. I mean, same me. We all kind of under the umbrella of the director. You know, we are there to fulfill their vision and their dream.
Yeah.
And, you know, lucky enough in this case of Amy, you know, she really brings people who are very creative and she's very open to it. I mean, you know, very rarely a director can use hats. And I mean, very rarely I, as a costume designer, can use hats. But Amy is this kind of director that's like, yes, let's use hats. Let's be creative. Let's fun.
Why do people say no to hats, Monome?
Because if I'm wearing it, then you don't see my
The
eyes.
shadow, and they have to
There's
be lit a
shadow.
certain way. Right,
So
right, right.
Amy, is so creative and open that she works with the director of photography, and she's like, okay, this is what I want. Let's light them the way that we can wear the hats and look amazing. I mean,
Yeah, attention to detail.
yeah, and this movie was really unique in so many ways because even the way that the movie was shot, if you really look at the camera, the way that the camera looks at everything is a very different way. It's very like a fashion eye. So the camera itself had a fashion eye. It looked at the purse. It looked at the whole outfit. The
Yes.
details of the shoe.
None of those details were lost.
None of
they were focused on.
exactly, and that's what Amy wanted. And I think very rarely that happens in the film. It's usually like a shot like this, then you have a full shot. So this was also very unique, and I think that's why we see the movie in such a different way because we are guided to see the fashion details.
Yeah, I love that. Somebody was asking about Dion's outfit before we move on and we talk about some of your other work. What was the premise for Dion? Do you remember
Well,
what Dion?
very sassy. She was kind of the
Yeah.
girl pretty supposedly had sex or close to having sex, so she was kind of very,
Experienced and
she had a super hot body. So with her, I could go a little bit further with kind of the sexiness. We were able to do the shorter skirts, and she was more funky. And her, I think, wardrobe was something that I was really happy about, and I think it was also something unique to the time because now it's very common. But at the time, you either had the kind of grunge fashion, mall fashion, and high fashion, and
right, right.
intertwined. And I think the first time also in this film that you saw something that you mixed all the different high and lows, which now we do that. We go
I mean, I
Gucci,
live and die by that, of
lips.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was not the case then. And I think
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't. That's true.
her wardrobe is really the prime example of that because it really was thrift store. It was high fashion. I mean, there was like Dolce Gabbana stuff that was vinyl skirts from Melrose Avenue, Red Bulls, kind of a rave store. She had all the clutches from the 50s.
Oh, right.
She had Mary Jane. So it was a really cool kind of mix with her, and I could really push it with color because she had such a beautiful skin tone. Do the fuchsias, like
All the colors pop.
you know. As Cher was a little bit more maybe French, in a way, and kind of a little bit more prim. I could really go a little bit more sassy, sexy, brighter, fun with her. So it was a lot of fun to do her wardrobe. And she was also older than Alicia.
Oh, Tarina Tarantino. Hi.
Hi.
We love you, Tarina Tarantino.
She,
Hi, Michele Murphy in Canada.
listen, Trina came with her then boyfriend to bring me some jewelry for the movie. They were just starting out. I mean, like in a little bag, could you use some of the rings? I mean,
We've all had that experience. Tarina Tarantino, whose pieces are so of that time, colorful. I mean, talk a little bit about Tarina Tarantino's pieces.
I mean, amazing. Romy and Michele, I think we had so much of her stuff in that movie. It was crazy, the blend.
Okay, let's move on because there's so many films to talk about. Night at the Roxbury. This is a film hold on, it's a film that celebrated tacky style in a way. Was that fun? Describe the look for that iconic 90s film.
Come on.
What?
How can it not be fun?
It's so fun. So what did you do to be like, to take us through your thought process?
Again, it's the script. It's always the script for a costume designer. It's really the blueprint. So who are these characters? Who are those guys? Where do they live? Where do they shop? Chris Kattan and Will Ferrell, crazy comedians, moving constantly, like doing crazy stuff. So for example, all the suits that I made for them, I got this fabric from Japan that was shiny but also stretchy and made the suits so they could do their little crazy moves.
You got them from Japan?
Yeah. Because nothing was available here.
Right, Mona. I mean, that's something that people probably wouldn't think about, right? If they're wearing a stiff, cheap suit or just the wrong fabric, they're looking terrible in those crazy scenes where they're moving all the time.
and then you're like have emergency on the set at all
The
times.
shoulders are riding up.
Pants
Right.
are ripped, pants are ripped.
Right. Right. Right.
So you have to accommodate, and that, I mean, that movie, I swear to you, I have this funniest memories. I mean, I don't remember if people remember, there was a scene where they like on the beach in these little tiny bathing suits that I made for them, and we were trying them on in the fittings, and they're like, make him more G-string, make him more G-string. So there's me kind of like, on my knees.
And how are you convincing these guys that they need to, you need to cut the suit smaller?
They wanted to.
Oh, they were the ones that the actors were saying this.
And I'm like,
I
oh,
love it.
this will be for my book, seriously, me on my knees.
100%. That's when you know you're on a real creative project, right?
Yes. And I mean, anything sheer, anything kind of shiny, anything that just was a little too tight was just the right thing for them. And again, working with comedians is so much fun, and I love it. I mean, like House Bunny with Anna Faris, movies like that, or Romy and Michele with Lisa Kudrow, where you're really working with actors, comedians who just will do anything for the laugh, just it's so much fun. It's really not about the vanity.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point, that a costume designer can really have fun with comedians. But I mean, what's so special about your work is that you do that, but you also infuse this great sense of style into things, and so you get to have sort of both worlds of
Right.
creating an outfit for the gag, but also throwing a little sensibility and point of view into it, and fashion, right?
And fashion. Yeah, I'm very, very, I mean, I must say I'm very lucky to have the talent, because comedy is hard. I think that it's very easy where you can kind of go too far. Just one more thing, and then it wears
it's like over the top. Yeah.
And then their performance, you can't even see it because the costume is too much, So
yes,
it's a very fine line, I think, in comedy that you walk, that it's funny, but it lets the actor breathe and really bring the character forth.
And let's talk about what's now the classic film, The Wedding Singer. And you've had a long history of working with Drew. We'll get to that later, but what was your vision there for The Wedding Singer? A beloved film for
Great
people.
Script, great director, Frank Coraci, still great friend, great visionary. He's done great movies. Has worked with Adam Sandler for many years. Very focused on how he saw the film. Of course, it was very bright, colorful, but it was also kind of, making the 80s classic and not making the 80s cheesy. I mean, that really was our, kind of
focus. Like we want to immortalize this time and not sort of poke fun at it. Right. There was a little poking fun.
The red jacket of the Michael Jackson with the glove. I mean, there were just some moments, what we really made fun of. The Drew Barrymore boyfriend. I mean, it was like the cheesy pose with the collar up. So I mean, there was a little bit of that fun. But like if you look at Adam Sandler costumes or Drew Barrymore costumes, they were very classic. I mean, she wore the granny dresses with the combat boots. She was super kind of polished and clean. She just wore one necklace with the hoop earrings.
Oh, I remember those dresses, Mona.
Yeah,
with a little t-shirt underneath.
Yeah,
t-shirt.
Yeah,
little cap sleeve.
Yeah,
a little floral dress and a cap sleeve and a little. You know what I was sort of, not to go off the subject, but I was getting very sentimental. I was watching something the other day, got the biggest earrings ever on, and I'm a big fan of a big earring. But in the 90s, anyone will tell you, it was when that little earring was really big. It was like this little drop earring, and they did them in all these fabulous ways, like a little drop cube or a little drop starburst or a little drop heart. I don't know. Just kind of took me down memory lane.
Yeah, it was really, really sweet movie to work on, really fun, and David Arquette was in it. I mean, it just was, I don't know, I just very fond memories of Adam Sandler, and finding his character was kind of very simple too. He was just a regular guy. He had the blue jacket that was kind of his go-to jacket for his performance when he was the wedding singer. Again, trying to make it as real as you can, in
Yeah,
the
knowing that it's, you know,
crazy
knowing that
the 80s. I mean, you know, the walls, and then you had so
it's a
many.
caricature of itself, but trying to make it seem believable.
Yeah, but it was
That's really the true talent of a costume designer, right? Is that you're fighting all the, not fighting, but you're contending with all these elements, and your job is to make it believable. Your job is to make people fall in love with these characters, or not through costume design in a way,
and
right?
costume design can be invisible, where you don't even know what they wear.
Yes,
They are just the real
right.
people that you know, which is also not easy.
Yes,
To really kind of find that balance who that person is. Like in 8 millimeter, I mean, Nick Cage just wore just this, you know, raincoat and a suit, gray, but you knew who the guy was. You know, or working with colors and comedy and kind of the bigger things or fashion. You know, it's all kind of storytelling in itself. And I don't know. I love what I do. I love telling stories through clothes. You know, it's just it's never kind of a dull moment. It's always
it's
some
a challenge and it's a gift, I would think,
solid
right?
gift. You know, it's a hard job. I mean, you have to shop. You have to,
Very hard, very hard.
you know, you're not coming in with a little makeup bag and like this is it.
Yeah. No, and it's a lot of what people don't understand, I think, about costume design and styling, and it's a lot of like manual labor. It's moving things from A to B and here
Yeah,
to there, and
yeah,
you know, you're on your hands and knees. It's not like, you know, no one's sitting behind a desk making sketches.
yeah. I'm
That's
not.
like a part of the job.
Yeah, not pointing. And I think also it's a very intimate kind of relationship with actors, you know,
And
because
yes, it's a very intimate relationship.
we kind of, you know, we see them naked, and we
You're
are,
dressing people. Yeah.
you know, we each vulnerable as a human being. Like we know our faults, and we don't like certain things about ourselves. And you know, here you are, you have to kind of like be right there, open up to everything, and then you know, hopefully there's someone like me who is really nurturing and can find the right way to approach the person and make them feel comfortable and make them feel secure in a moment so they can kind of, you know, let go and dive into this process. You know, I think it's a very interesting moment in the fitting, you know, to really finding that kind of communication with each person, you know.
Fittings are very intimate moments. They can be very tricky.
Yeah,
You know, it's where a lot happens. It's where a lot comes to a head, or comes, you know, there's a lot of decisions are made, a lot of personalities mix, a lot of emotions come to the surface, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I think that, you know, that's something that, you know,
It's
so it takes a special kind of costume designer to really sort of, you know, you're there to satisfy all the different elements, right, Mona? You satisfy the person who's got to throw that on and feel great in front of the camera, the director's vision, and so many other things, right?
just
You
my
know, it doesn't match with with the couch on set, right? So that's another element.
right. And sometimes you're getting actors, you know, 5 p.m. and they work the next morning, and you know, and you have only certain things open at that.
Right,
You have that night.
right. Well, let's move on to Romy and Michele's high school reunion, another iconic film of the 90s, starring Mira Sorvino, Lisa Kudrow. It was released in 1997.
Wow.
And this was also a film where over the top fashion was a character itself in the film. Can you share a good story from set, Mona? What was your work like on it? Do you have a story from
So,
that
so much,
set?
so much fun. I mean, it was, you know, working with Lisa was, she's, I mean, just again, you know, I kudos to Lisa because she just, her instincts are incredible and so funny. She just really knew who the character was, and she really welcomed my kind of high fashion sense and silliness and colors. And, you know, we were able to really find her and then kind of find the other character of Romy, I mean, of Mira Sorvino's character, um, you know, balancing her kind of wildness because Mira's was always the little bit more sensible one. Um, you know, and there was a specific color palette that we had for each. Um,
What
but
was the color palette for each? Can you recall or not
yeah, I
recall?
mean, Mira's was much more kind of sensible, you know, so it was the blues and kind of more of the cooler tones, you know, she was kind of like the guy in the relationship a little bit. And, you know, Lisa was kind of the more flamboyant with the pinks, with the boas, with the, you know, chainmail jacket and a lot of tiny stuff. But what was fun about it that, now I had like in Clueless, there were young girls. Now I had women. So I could really kind of go for it. I could
Right. So that was your chance to style women, right? You didn't have to.
really, uh, we could really go all the way, which was really fun. And I, you know, designed so many things on these films. I mean, even when you think of the like their uh, gym outfits, with the shiny low cut dresses, and they're like on the bikes, with the boobs.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fun. And again, like this is a good story of like an actor instinct. For example, I had the final outfits designed for the end of the movie when they come as themselves. Now, they played the whole charades. There were the invented post-its and all this stuff, and then they finally come to the at the end in the two A-line dresses, which Mira's was blue and Lisa's was pink. It's on the
Yeah. That was such a look.
dresses
That combo.
for Halloween. That it's the iconic look of the movie, and it was really interesting because I was designing the dresses. Mira's was the blue one, and then I had something else designing for Lisa, which was a little bit more flowy. It had chiffon. It was actually hand painted, and we were in the fitting probably maybe a couple days before we were shooting, and Lisa said, "What is Mira wearing in this scene?" And that's like the worst question you can have from an actor.
Right. That's like, uh-oh.
Oh, what's happening? So I said, I showed her the sketch and what we do, and she's like,
And so why was she asking that question, do you think? Like, why did that?
"Oh, I don't know,
Yeah. It's like when somebody.
always like two girls in the movie. They want to know what the other is wearing, and
That's right.
and I showed her this sketch, and she said, I really feel that maybe the dresses should be more similar." And I was like, "Really? What do you mean?" She said, because it's like we making the dress. It would be like the same pattern maybe, or very similar feel, but like it really shows the difference of who we are. And I was like, oh. And I'm very open. I'm very kind of, flow to the process. I try to very just kind of go with it, not immediately go, oh my God, this is going to be hell. I'm going to be insane. And I have to work, 48 hours and 72 hours nonstop to figure out what it is, because it still has to get approved by the director and by the studio. And, all the other people have to look at it. But I was very open to it. And I finished the fittings, we pinned the dress. And then I called my illustrator. I said, let's figure something out here, because maybe there's something in her instinct that's really right. And then I designed the pink dress. So it was the same A-line shape, empire waist dress, the sleeveless, in pink, spandex, shiny, with the pink boa. And it really, really clicked. It was truly the move. And when we made the dress and had the final fittings with both of them, I knew it was the right thing. So it's
Yeah.
very interesting. Things really happen. And I think as a designer, a costume designer, you have to be very open to this stuff.
Absolutely.
It's like a river that you don't know where it's going to take you. And now when I look at it, I can't even imagine the other dress.
Right. You have to be collaborative.
Yes.
Speaking of which, you've collaborated on so many projects with Drew Barrymore. We touched on that a little earlier. How does Drew approach the costume part of her work? As somebody who's been in the business for a very long time, since she was a child, how does she approach it?
She is fearless. She's so much fun. And I have to tell you, in the old days when I think maybe there was a Never Been Kissed. Was it on Never Been Kissed? Yes, it was Never Been Kissed. There used to be a stall called Loman's here in Los Angeles.
We love Loman's. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, we talked about this on our podcast.
So in the day, they actually had like fitting rooms. They were just big, giant rooms with mirrors that everybody would kind of go in and hang their stuff.
You have to change in front of people.
Yes. So me and Drew, here we are in Loman's
On La Cienega.
on the Cienega, buying clothes. She's changing. I mean, she was just so amazing. Such a trooper and partner and creator. She really knows what she wants. She has a really great instinct about stuff. I mean, just working with her on on Santa Clarita Diet, 2 years ago, we did 3 seasons of that. It was kind of very similar. I mean, we kind of knew, we knew each other. I know what she likes, and she knows what I can bring to the table, and kind of we meld so well together. She would say, yes, that's great, but then get me this kind of belt. I want it like this, or send me pictures. And I don't know, we work so well together. We kind of have that great flow. And I'm also great with female bodies. People can go up and down, and she also doesn't care she doesn't have to be size 0, which is so awesome. I always support that so much. And she's just who she is.
Yeah.
Great. We don't have to hide things. We don't have to do spank, so we don't have to do, push-up bras and stuff like this.
Yeah.
Who I am.
That's a gift too. So what you've been working on a ton of recent projects. A lot of things have gotten halted because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But one of the things that you were working on that before we wrap, I don't think we have very much time left, but you were working on the reboot of Punky Brewster, which is it's a popular 80s series starring Soleil Moon-Frye.
Yes.
And it was also something that changed how people perceived fashion on television, because once again, fashion was a character itself. The character was known for her colorful, playful 80s style. Yes. And so can you describe, Mona, Punky Brewster as a kid and how you created her wardrobe as an adult for this reboot?
Again, fearless kid. It was just a fearless kid who just was kind of, walking to her own drum. She wore 2 different color shoes. She had a little bandana around her thigh. She had lots of pins and colorful blocked t-shirt jackets.
Rainbow suspenders, I sort of remember.
Rainbow suspenders. Very arty kid, which, now Soleil Moon is a mom. In the pilot that we did, she plays a photographer, that used to travel and shoot photography, all over the world. And now she's mother of 3, divorced. Freddie Prinze Jr. is her ex-husband, musician.
So fun.
Really fun. And so she's still very artistic. She's really fun. So we did,
still as much color as in
Yes. So we did, overalls. We did 2 different Doc Martens. It's leather jacket.
Oh, she wore the mismatched shoes. That's right.
Wore the mismatched shoes.
I forgot about that.
We did a bandana in her hair. We did like a, 80s kind of the shoulder sweatshirt for her, just kind of getting out of the bed.
Perfect.
We did some.
Mona, what's the most rewarding thing about what you do?
Besides the fittings, I think, which I love, that moment of the creation of really finding the character, I think seeing something on the screen. I mean, I remember when I did Enchanted, and it was like this most incredible project that I've done with, designing everything from scratch and working with animators and live action and CGI, dragons. And when I saw the screening of the movie, seriously, tears were going down my cheeks going, I did that? This came out of me?